With Selection Sunday officially over, we now have our bracket for the 2025 NCAA tournament. And whether you're looking for a brief refresher on all 68 teams in the field, or this is your first time watching college basketball in months, this is the video for you. As here are some things you should know about every team in the NCAA tournament. Let's go. Hey guys, before we continue with the video, I just wanted to take a brief moment and talk to you all about Pool Genius. When it comes to March Madness, most people are filling out their brackets completely wrong and they don't even realize it. They pick their favorite teams, they follow the rankings, they listen to so-called expert advice, and yet without fail, their bracket is busted before the Sweet 16. So if you actually want to win your bracket pool, Pool Genius is your secret weapon. It builds your optimal bracket in under a minute, and the best part is, no research and no stress. Haven't watched a second of college basketball all season? No problem. You could still build a better bracket than the guy who's been glued to every game this year. And maybe, if you're lucky, even me. Getting your bracket is easy. Just enter your pool's details, and Pool Genius does the heavy lifting, creating a fully optimized bracket using the most advanced bracket picking technology on the planet. That's why 52% of Pool Genius users win a bracket pool every year, with over $2.5 million in reported earnings since 2017. So, if you're serious about winning your bracket pool, click the link in the description or visit poolgenius.com/Bobby to get the Pool Genius Bracket Optimizer, your unfair advantage this March. Auburn has long been seen as the best team in college basketball this season, going back to their dominant run in the Maui Invitational and ending with their demolition of a loaded SEC. 6'10" big Janai Broome is a serious National Player of the Year candidate, as he's averaging around 19 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2.5 blocks per game. And the Tigers also have real weapons around him in sharpshooters like Miles Kelly, Chad Baker-Mazara, and Denver Jones, who are all hitting over 39% of their triples on the year, and they also bring in a stud freshman off the bench in Tahad Pettiford, who is capable of taking games over as well. Auburn has the best offense in the country, and beating them will take a Herculean effort. Alabama State took home the SWAC auto bid, and their best attribute as a team is their total avoidance of turning the ball over. The main reason for this is that they're led by a trio of smart guards in CJ Hines, Amar Cox, and TJ Madlock, all of whom average over 12 points and 2.5 assists per game. Despite their high IQ players, scoring will be a major challenge for Alabama State, as their offensive efficiency ranks outside the top 280 in the country. St. Francis went on the road and shocked favorite Central Connecticut State in the NEC Tournament Championship game, as even with that win, they still entered the NCAA tournament below 500 with a record of 16-17. The guard duo of Riley Parker and Juan Cranford Jr. will look to pace the Red Flash in scoring, with 6'8" sophomore Valentino Pinedo trying to anchor them inside as the team's tallest player, who's averaging around 10 points and 7 rebounds per game. Louisville has turned itself around under the leadership of first-year head coach Pat Kelsey, as the Cardinals enter the tournament with a 27-7 record after only winning a combined 12 games during the last 2 seasons. The Cardinals have a really fun backcourt duo of Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards Jr. The former is an elite defender and has blossomed as a point guard, averaging 16 points and 6 assists per game, and the latter is an experienced bucket getter who also scores 16 a game. Look for Louisville to win games with their guards and shoot a lot of threes. Creighton has steadily improved throughout the season, looking like a bubble team early to now looking like a potential second weekend threat. Ryan Kalkbrenner is back as the 7-footer is one of the most impactful defenders in the country thanks to his rim protection, but he is also productive offensively as he scores around 19 points per game. Point guard Stephen Ashworth is a lethal threat from deep who pours in 16 points per game, and off-ball guard Jemiah Neal has really stepped up as a tough shot maker. Look for Creighton to move the ball around and launch from 3. Michigan looked to be in a bit of a slump before rallying to win the Big Ten tournament, and they'll feature one of the most unique pick-and-roll pairings in the country with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golban, both of whom are 7 feet tall. Wolf averages around 13 points, 10 boards, and 4 assists per game, and is a super skilled big who can handle, pass, and shoot, while Golban is an elite rim finisher and roll man who scores around 17 points a game. Michigan has a nice cohort of guards in guys like Trey Donaldson, Roddy Gale, and Namari Burnett, and look for the Wolverines to dominate the paint on both ends. Turnovers are an issue for this team, but they do have the talent to make a deep run. UC San Diego earned the Big West auto bid after winning the regular season as well, and the Tritons are in the tournament for the first time in their first year of eligibility after moving up from Division II in 2020. UCSD forces turnovers at an elite 23.2% rate, which is good for second nationally, and they are also top 10 in not turning it over themselves as well. Almost half their shots come from three-point range, and they are led offensively by Big West Player of the Year Aniwa Tate Jones, who averages 19.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, and 6'5" Tyler McGuy, who scores 16.5 per game and hits 37% of his triples. Texas A&M is fueled by its relentlessness on the offensive glass. The Aggies rank first in the country in offensive rebounding rate, corralling around 42% of their misses, and this effort helps make up for their below-average shooting numbers. Still, they have legit offensive talent, primarily in the form of dynamic guard Wade Taylor IV, who's A&M's all-time leading scorer, and he's averaging around 16 points and 4 assists per game. Backcourt running mate Zurich Phelps also pours in 14 points a game, and they have a ton of athletic forwards like Henry Coleman, Anderson Garcia, Solomon Washington, and Pharrell Payne that can cause havoc on the defensive end. Yale won the Ivy League tournament for the second year in a row, and they are led by 6'5" guard John Poulikitis, who is one of the best shot makers in the country thanks to his elite off-ball movement and creation skills. He's averaging 19 points a game while shooting 40% from 3, and Yale also boasts 6'7" wing Nick Townsend, who's averaging 15 points and 7 boards. Bez Mbang is another guy to watch, as a 6'4" guard is a high-level scorer and distributor, averaging around 14 points and 6 assists per game, and with this big three, the Bulldogs are one of the scarier mid-majors in the field this year. Ole Miss is set to enter its first NCAA tournament under Chris Beard, and its first since 2019, and the Rebels pride themselves on winning the turnover battle as they rank second nationally when it comes to not turning it over, and are in the top 35 when it comes to forced turnover percentage. Sean Padula is a standout here as he's averaging around 15 points and 3.5 assists per game, both of which lead the team, and outside of him, the Rebels have a balanced scoring attack that features 5 guys averaging 10 points a game. San Diego State is familiarly having major success thanks to its defense, which ranks top 15 nationally. The Aztecs lead the country in block percentage at 18.6% and are more than comfortable playing games in the 60s and 70s. 6'7" wing Miles Byrd is a very solid offensive player who scores around 13 points per game and can get hot from 3 despite his percentages suggesting otherwise, and point guard Nick Boyd has been a welcome addition to the roster as a mature, do-everything veteran. 7-footer Magoon Gwath is one of the more interesting players in the country as well, thanks to his frame, fluidity, and burgeoning ball skills. North Carolina managed to sneak into the field as the last team in, but despite their somewhat controversial selection, this team still has serious talent. RJ Davis is a high-level shot-making guard who's averaging 17 points per game, and freshman Ian Jackson is a scoring spark plug who pours in close to 13 a game as well. Seth Trimble and Van Allen Lubin are solid energy guys who can earn extra possessions, and Elliot Cadeau is still a very crafty passer who can make plays. Jalen Withers continuing to knock down threes will be key to any run they make. Iowa State is one of the best teams in the country when the roster is fully available, but they've struggled with injuries as of late. Keyshawn Gilbert is out for the season, which is a massive blow, but Taman Lipsey and Curtis Jones still make up a very good backcourt duo, combining to score around 30 points per game. Forwards Joshua Jefferson and Milan Momcilovic also add scoring pop in the frontcourt, and like usual under TJ Otzelberger, the Cyclones have a top 10 defense in the sport, fueled by elite ball pressure and forcing turnovers. Lipscomb won the Atlantic Sun regular season and tournament by playing a very disciplined style of basketball, as they don't turn the ball over and don't needlessly send teams to the free throw line. 6'8" forward Jacob Ognasovic was the ASUN Player of the Year this year after averaging 20 points and 8 boards a game, and as a team they will shoot and make a ton of threes, as all 5 of their current starters have made over 30 threes on the season, with guards Joe Anderson, Will Pruitt, and Jossie Powell leading the way from distance. Cam Jones is Marquette's offensive engine, averaging 19 points and 6 assists per game this year while being the only player on the team capable of generating consistent scoring chances. Look for Stevie Mitchell and Chase Ross to terrorize opposing guards on the defensive end, as they are 2 of the best perimeter defenders in college basketball. As a team, Marquette thrives on winning the turnover battle, as they are elite at both protecting and taking the ball. For them, it all comes down to capitalizing on Cam Jones' creation by making open shots. New Mexico won the Mountain West regular season and is led by stud point guard Donovan Dent, who took home MWC Player of the Year honors while averaging around 21 points and 6 assists per game for the Lobos. Nelly Jr. Joseph is a beast on the interior for New Mexico as well, as he's averaging a double-double at 14 points and 11 boards per game to go along with 1.5 blocks. Look for New Mexico to press opponents and force turnovers while letting Dent be close to a one-man show on the offensive end, as the Lobos play at one of the fastest tempos in the country. Michigan State won the Big Ten regular season by 3 games thanks to a grueling defense that emphasizes physicality, rebounding, and defending the 3. As opponents are only shooting 27.9% from 3 against the Spartans this year, which is the second lowest nationally. Freshman guard Jace Richardson has been a revelation, as he's become Michigan State's most consistent offensive weapon, averaging around 12 points and shooting 42% from 3, but Jaden Akins is also a talented shot maker as well. Additionally, Sparty has a solid rotation of big guys that they can lean on, and watch out for freak athlete Cohen Carr when he gets a dunking opportunity. Bryant won the America East auto bid in rather dominant fashion, with all their tournament games being decided by 11 or more points. The Bulldogs can cause problems for teams because of their size across the lineup, as their shortest starter measures in at 6'6", making them a tough team to finish at the rim against. Bryant is also a top 10 fastest playing team in the country, which could further create issues, and they have legit scoring options in Rafael Pinzan, Earl Timberlake, and Barry Evans, who combined to average 47.5 points per game. Duke has been one of the best teams in the country all year long, as they ran through the ACC regular season and tournament, winning both convincingly. Cooper Flagg gets all the attention, and it looks like he'll be good to go after a scary ankle sprain in the ACC tournament quarterfinals, but he should be the focal point, as he's my pick for Wooden Award and will be the first overall selection in the NBA draft. Flagg is averaging 19 points, 7.5 boards, and 4 assists per game to go along with 1.5 steals and 1.3 blocks, but at the same time, Duke is so much more than just Flagg, as they have a top 5 offense and defense nationally, and have big-time players all over the place, like fellow lottery picks and 6'7" sharpshooter Kon Knipple and 7-footer Kamen Maluach. Sion James and Tyrese Proctor give them more two-way impact on the perimeter, and freshman guard Isaiah Evans can go on heaters as well. This team is loaded. American won the Patriot League regular season and tournament and are set for their first NCAA tournament appearance since 2014. The Eagles play at one of the slowest paces in the country and will need to rely heavily on 6'9", 3-time All-Patriot League forward Matt Rogers, who has had a very productive season, averaging 17 points and 6 rebounds a game while shooting 40% from 3, along with 6'6" wing Greg Jones, who scores 10 points a game and hits a scorching 46.5% of his threes. Mount St. Mary's won the MAAC tournament in head coach Donnie Lynn's first season, and the Mountaineers rely heavily on a balanced offensive approach that prioritizes ball movement. 6'9" junior Dola Adebayo leads the team in scoring at around 13 points per game, and guard Dallas Hobbs will have a big role to play as well, as he can do a little bit of everything. Taking care of the ball will be a priority for Mount St. Mary's, as they are one of the worst teams in the country when it comes to turning it over. Mississippi State has one of the most terrifying guards in the field in 5'10" sophomore Josh Hubbard, who is capable of taking over games thanks to his spurt ability as a scorer. He's averaging a team-leading 19 points per game this year, and Chris Jans has done a good job of surrounding him with size and length to balance out the roster. 6'10" big Keyshawn Murphy won't start for the Bulldogs, but he's a rangy athlete who can block shots and catch lobs, and veteran wings RJ Melendez and Riley Kugel are also nice to have, as they both have had great NCAA tournament games in years past. Baylor is led by 6'7" senior big Norchad Omier, who averages around 16 points and 11 rebounds per game and is the primary reason for Baylor's top 25 offensive rebounding rate. Outside of him though, the Bears are incredibly guard driven, with freshmen VJ Edgecombe and Rob Wright combining to score around 26 points per game and dish out 7 assists per game, in addition to veterans Jeremy Roach, Jaden Nunn, and Langston Love, who are all capable of providing offense as well. Baylor is going to struggle to get stops on the defensive end, but they have enough scoring pop to make their opponents nervous. Oregon is led by the inside-out duo of Nate Biddle and Jackson Shellstad. Biddle is a gargantuan 7-footer who can protect the rim and finish lobs, and he leads the Ducks in scoring and rebounding at 14 and 7 per game, respectively. Shellstad has been a clutch shot maker all season for Oregon, as he averages 13 points a game as well, and the Ducks have a lot of complementary scoring threats like TJ Bamba, Keyshawn Barthélemy, and Brandon Angel, and that makes them a difficult team to prepare for. Liberty is back in the tournament for the first time as a member of Conference USA, and they enter as one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country, in addition to being one of the best 3-point defending teams in the country. The Flames are an efficiency machine on offense thanks in large part to its guard trio of Talon Peter, Caden Matheny, and Colin Porter Jr., who are all elite shooters and playmakers in different ways. Versatile swingman Zach Cleveland is a 6'7" Swiss Army knife as well, as he averages around 11 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. This is a well-coached and experienced team that will be a tough out in the tournament. Arizona enters the tournament led once again by dynamic but streaky guard Caleb Love, who is averaging 16.5 points per game this year. Look for the Wildcats to attack in transition when they can and crash the offensive glass, as they have legit size in guys like Tobe Awaka and Henry Vasar. Arizona also has a lot of guys that can score, as everyone in their normal rotation averages over 6 points per game. This team will primarily score around the basket and let their size and physicality wear opponents down on both ends. Akron won the MAC regular season in dominant fashion, but needed an 18-point comeback in the MAC tournament title game to punch their ticket. The Zips are in the NCAA tournament for the third time in 4 years, and they will try to play fast on offense to make up for their lack of size. Guards Nate Johnson and Tavari Johnson lead the team at 14 and 13 points per game respectively, with Nate being more of a driver and Tavari being more of a shooter. Akron also enters the tournament as one of the hottest teams in the country, as they've only lost once in the 2025 calendar year. First-year head coach Kevin Young has turned BYU into one of the best offenses in the sport, fueled by high-volume three-point shooting, as evidenced recently by their 96-point explosion against Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament, where they nailed 18 threes. 6'5" guards Richie Saunders and Trevin Knell are both snipers who each hit over 43% of their threes and scored 16 and 9 points per game respectively, and freshman Yegor Demin is a supersized point guard who might be the best pure passer in college basketball and is likely a first-round pick in the 2025 NBA draft. VCU comes in as winners of the Atlantic 10 regular season and tournament, and they will wear on you physically as they force turnovers, defend the paint, full-court press, and crash the offensive glass. Guards Max Shulga and Joe Bamisil are VCU's primary offensive weapons as they each average over 15 points per game, with Shulga being an elite shooter and Bamisil being an elite driver. Jack Clark is an interesting player at 6'10" because he's super skilled and can score at all three levels, and guard Philip Russell has a knack for making huge plays on both offense and defense. Wisconsin emerged as one of the better teams in the Big Ten thanks to the phenomenal John Tonji, a bulky 6'5" swingman who is one of the best scorers in the country thanks to his ability to get to the free throw line and create shots for himself. He's averaging 19 points per game on 47, 39, 91 splits. They also have a very good downhill guard in John Blackwell who can create paint touches at will and averages 15.5 points per game. I like Wisconsin's complementary pieces as well because they can all spread the floor and hit shots, which makes them an incredibly difficult guard. Montana won the Big Sky auto bid and is in the tournament for the first time since 2019. The Grizzlies are led by a quartet of guards in Money Williams, Kai Johnson, Brandon Whitney, and Malik Moore, who combine to average around 47 points per game, in addition to Joe Pridgeon, who is an undersized forward but still manages to score 11 points and grab 7 boards per game. Montana is very good at getting shots around the basket as reflected by their team field goal percentage of 50.4%, which finished as second best in the country only to Northern Colorado, who they beat in the Big Sky title game. St. Mary's won the WCC regular season and the season series against Gonzaga, and have done so by playing a grinded-out style that forces teams to be disciplined. The Gales have a top 10 defense in the country and play incredibly slow on offense, which when combined with their elite offensive rebounding rate, places a heightened importance on every possession. Two-time WCC Player of the Year Augustus Marcelonis leads them at 14 points and 6 assists per game, and the front-court duo of Paulius Morauskas and Mitchell Saxon help them control the paint and get easy baskets. Look out for freshman Mikey Lewis off the bench as a difference maker as well. Vanderbilt has had a dream season under first-year head coach Mark Byington and are in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2017. The Commodores will take great care of the ball and will play relatively fast, with Jason Edwards leading the offense as a bucket-getting combo guard who averages 17 points a game. 6'7" forward Devin McLaughlin is a difference maker thanks to his effort on the glass and finishing around the basket, and Tyler Nickel is a legit shooter with solid size at 6'7" that defenses will have to worry about as well. Alabama has built well off of last year's Final Four appearance as the Crimson Tide play at the fastest pace in the country and have a top 3 offense in the sport thanks to their high volume of 3-point attempts and shots around the rim. Mark Sears started the season off slowly but has hit his stride lately and looks like an All-American level guard, as he's scoring around 18 points per game and dishing out 5 assists. But the question will be Grant Nelson, a mismatch forward at 6'11", who had massive games in the tournament last year, but whose status is up in the air due to a knee injury sustained in the SEC tournament. The Tide have solid shooting in guys like Aiden Holloway and Chris Youngblood, with freshman standout LeBaron Philon making a huge impact with his energy on both ends. Robert Morris won both the Horizon League regular season and tournament and are in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2015. The Colonials make a point of putting pressure on the rim as they rank in the top 50 nationally in both offensive rebounding rate and free throw rate, and leading them is Horizon League Player of the Year Alvaro Folgueras, who averaged an impressive 14 points and 9 rebounds on 55, 42, 78 shooting splits. Houston dominated the Big 12 all year, going 19-1 and winning the regular season and conference tournament. The Cougars have the best defense in America like usual, but this year they are also one of the best shooting teams in the country, led by the sharp-shooting guard trio of LJ Cryer, Milos Uzan, and Emmanuel Sharp, who all score over 11 points per game and shoot over 42% from 3. Houston's 39.8% from 3 as a team is second nationally, and they still are a top 20 offensive rebounding team as well. Houston's bigs in Juwan Roberts and JoJo Tugler are monsters defensively, and 6'6" wing Terrence Arsenault can hit tough shots as well. Houston is flat out terrifying. Southern Illinois Edwardsville enters the tournament by way of the Ohio Valley auto bid, as they absolutely destroyed Southeast Missouri State in the conference tournament title game. The Cougars are led by OVC Player of the Year Rayshon Taylor, a 6'1" do-everything guard who averages 19 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. Despite his efforts, SIUE is set to be one of the worst offensive teams in the field, but they do have a solid paint defense that could keep them in games. After an up-and-down season, Gonzaga has ended in familiar position as WCC tournament champions. The Zags rank as one of the best offenses in the sport behind the direction of point guard Ryan Nembhard, who's averaging around 10 points and 10 assists per game and leads an incredibly well-polished and mature attack. Graham Ike is a solid post-up player who leads the team in scoring and rebounding at 17 points and 7.5 boards per game, and Caleb Battle is a streaky scoring guard who can get hot in a moment's notice. Georgia is in the tournament for the first time under Mike White, and they'll try to win games in the paint. As 6'9" freshman Asa Newell is a very good inside player, averaging 15 points and 7 rebounds a game, and fellow bigs Samto Surreal and RJ Godfrey are difficult to deal with as well. Silas Demery Jr. is a solid point guard for the Bulldogs, averaging 13 points and 3 assists per game, and they have a trio of off-ball guys that can heat up and score in bunches in Blue Kane, Tyron Lawrence, and Dakota LaFew. Clemson followed up their surprise Elite Eight run with a very good season in the ACC, going 27-6 and ending their season in the top 25 nationally in both offensive and defensive efficiency. The Tigers force turnovers at a decent rate and shoot a very good 37% from 3, and have real offensive weapons at every level. Chase Hunter is a solid shot-making guard who scores around 16 points per game. Ian Shefflin is a versatile do-everything forward who averages a near double-double at 13 points and 9 rebounds a game, and big man Victor Locken is an eraser on defense who can also step out and hit threes. Will Wade and McNeese State are back for their second straight tournament after winning the Southland regular season and tournament, and they should be seen as one of the scarier mid-major teams in the field. The Cowboys will force turnovers at a high rate and crash the glass, and are led by Southland Player of the Year Javon Garcia, who averages 13 points a game, and the undersized but hyper-athletic center Christian Shoemate, who is an elite rebounder, rim finisher, and shot blocker. Look for Quadir Copeland to run the offense, and DJ Richards and Sincere Parker to add perimeter scoring pop. Purdue is spearheaded by the duo of Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn. Smith has been the best point guard in college basketball this year, averaging around 16 points and 9 assists per game, while Kaufman-Renn has been an elite paint presence, averaging 20 points and 6 rebounds a game. Outside of those two, Fletcher Lawyer continues to light it up as a shooter, averaging 13 points a game while hitting 46% of his triples, and while the Boilermaker defense has left a bit to be desired in the wake of Zach Edey's departure, this is still a very potent offensive squad, ranking 9th nationally in offensive efficiency. High Point has spent all season on everyone's Cinderella radar, and head coach Alan Huss has his team rolling into the NCAA tournament, as the Panthers are riding a 14-game winning streak and boast a top 30 offense nationally. High Point can score in bunches and are great at going on game-turning runs. Guards Keza Jiffa and Damarian Williams pace them in scoring, but High Point is incredibly deep, and it was actually their bench unit that sealed their bid in the Big South title game. Illinois revamped its typical spread offense for a more pick-and-roll heavy approach thanks to the presence of freshman point guard Kasparis Yakishonis, who has been the offensive engine for the Illini, averaging around 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. 7'1" big Tomislav Ivicic is a skilled center who can finish around the basket and pass people open, and 6'8" freshman Will Riley is a talented 3-level scorer. But it'll come down to Illinois' auxiliary players like Kylan Boswell, Trey White, and Ben Humrickhouse making shots if the team wants to make a run, as Illinois takes a ton of threes but doesn't make them at a super high rate. Texas snuck into the field, but this team has a lot more talent than its seed would suggest. Trey Johnson is a rangy 6'5" scoring guard who averages 20 points a game while hitting 39% of his threes, and he should be a lottery pick in this year's NBA draft. Tremont Mark is a veteran guard who has had monster NCAA tournament games in the past and can defend on the perimeter, while Jordan Pope offers more backcourt scoring to the tune of 11 points a game. Look for veteran wing Arthur Kaluma to impact the game on both ends, along with big man Caden Shedrick. A team with tough shot makers like this can absolutely do some damage in the tournament. Xavier has one of the most feared scorers in college basketball in 6'3" guard Ryan Conwell, who has had some nuclear performances this year and averages 17 points a game on 42% from 3. Zach Fremantle is a solid inside presence who averages around 17 points and 7 boards a game, and I really like the playmaking ability of Davion McKnight as a passer and Dalen Swain as a toolsy two-way wing. The Musketeers are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country and one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the country as well. Mark Pope has met expectations in year 1 at Kentucky, as he runs one of the most aesthetically pleasing offenses in the country with lots of movement and shooting. While they are somewhat banged up with injuries, Kentucky still has plenty of weapons, including 6'4" guard Otega Owe, who leads the team in scoring at 16 points per game, and 6'7" wing Kobe Brea, who is the most lethal three-point shooter in the country, as he hits 44% of his attempts. Lamont Butler needs to play if Kentucky is going to make a run, as he's their best perimeter defender and another scoring weapon in the backcourt. Troy finished in a 4-way tie atop the Sun Belt and managed to cement their spot by dominating the conference tournament, winning by an average margin of 16 points in their 3 postseason games thus far. The Trojans have a pair of guards who are great at getting downhill in Sun Belt Player of the Year Tatum Connerway and Miles Rigsby, but look for them to try and win games with their physical defense and hustle on the glass, as they rank top 5 nationally in offensive rebounding rate. UCLA has one of the best defenses in the country, as they force turnovers on approximately 23% of their defensive possessions, which is good for 5th nationally. They are led offensively by a unique frontcourt duo of Tyler Bilodeau and Eric Daly Jr., who average around 14 and 12 points per game respectively, while each hitting over 40% of their threes. Look for Sebastian Mack to make a scoring impact off the bench, as the 6'3" sophomore averages 10 points a game while only playing 21 minutes a night, and true to any Mick Cronin squad, expect UCLA to win games with their defense as opposed to their offense. Utah State keeps succeeding despite having to find a new coach every few years, and Jared Calhoun has kept that trend alive in his first year in Logan. The Aggies have one of the best offenses in the sport that's predicated on sharing the ball and getting easy shots around the basket, and leading the charge are veteran guards Ian Martinez and Mason Falslev, who are averaging a combined 32 points per game and are holdovers from last year's team. Defensively, Utah State does force turnovers, but they can also be a bit foul-prone. Like usual, Tennessee wins games with its stifling and physical defense, as the Volunteers rank 3rd nationally in defensive efficiency and 1st in effective field goal percentage allowed. Chaz Lanier is Tennessee's most reliable offensive weapon at around 18 points per game, as he's an elite movement shooter who has a habit of getting off to really hot starts. Zakai Ziegler is still in Knoxville as an elite two-way point guard who averages around 14 points, 7 assists, and 2 steals a game, and Felix Okpara gives them a real rim-protecting big who can finish lobs. If they can find consistent offense, Tennessee is a real Final Four threat. Wofford won the SoCon tournament after finishing 6th in the regular season standings, as they shoot around 28 per game and have made 10 or more threes in 17 games this year. They are a solid rebounding team on both ends and are led by a trio of seniors and guards Corey Tripp and Dylan Bailey, and underhand free throw shooting big man Kyler Filowich, who all combine to score around 37 points per game. Florida is fresh off winning the SEC tournament, and they look like the best team in the country, as they have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to guards and big men. The Gators have a top 3 offense and a top 15 defense, and are an elite offensive rebounding team as well. Walter Clayton Jr. is an extremely talented guard who's averaging 17.5 points per game and is a flamethrower from deep, in addition to Elijah Martin and Will Richards in the backcourt, who each score around 14 points a game and can defend at a high level. Big man Alex Condon is a monster, averaging around 11 points and 9 rebounds a game, and the other bigs like Ruben Chinyelu, Micah Hanwagton, and Thomas Hout are all viable as well. This team should be among the favorites to win it all. Norfolk State won the MEAC regular season and tournament after they narrowly escaped South Carolina State in the title game. The Spartans won't take or make a lot of threes, but they make up for it by getting to the free throw line at a very high rate. Brian Moore Jr. makes his team go as a 6'1" guard scores 18 points a game, and look for Christian Ings to potentially light it up from 3, as a 6'2" senior is hitting close to 47% of his triples on the season. UConn certainly isn't the powerhouse that we've grown accustomed to seeing the last few years, but the Huskies still have one of the most efficient offenses in the country, spurred by constant off-ball movement and offensive rebounding. UConn has 3 guys that average over 14 points per game in Alex Caraban, Liam McNeely, and Solo Ball, and all 3 of them can go absolutely nuclear in any given game. UConn's defense is exploitable as they don't have great point of attack defenders, but they still have 2 decent shot blockers in Samson Johnson and Terrace Reed that can make life difficult. Oklahoma is in the tournament for the first time in the Porter Moser era and is led by dynamite freshman guard Jeremiah Fears, who averages 17 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. Jalen Moore is a nice complement for him in the front court, as he's a burly 6'7" forward who scores 16 points a game and can defend multiple positions. Oklahoma has a nice cohort of guards and guys like Duke Dennis, Bryson Goodine, and Kobe Elvis, who can all make threes at a high clip, and as a team, Oklahoma does an excellent job of manufacturing points by getting to the free throw line. Memphis won the AAC regular season and tournament and have one of the most dynamic scoring guards in the country in sophomore PJ Haggerty, who's averaging close to 22 points a game on 49, 39, 81 shooting splits. We don't know the status of his backcourt running mate Tyrese Hunter, who contributes close to 14 a game, so that's something to monitor. But still, Memphis will make every game chaotic because of their pressure, pace, and physicality. Look for big man Dane Danger to control the paint as he averages around 14 points and 7 boards a game, and Colby Rogers is another guard who can get hot from 3. Colorado State looked pretty mediocre earlier in the season, but the Rams have turned it around, winning their last 10 games in a row and clinching the Mountain West auto bid in the process. Nee Clifford is a legitimate first-round pick candidate, as the 6'6" senior averages 19 points, 9.7 rebounds, 4.4 assists, and 1.2 steals per game, all of which lead the team. He's the type of player that can carry a team to wins in March, but the Rams also have solid complementary guys in sharpshooting guard Keon Evans, scoring guard Jalen Lake, and wide-shouldered forward Rashawn Mbemba. Maryland has become known for the Crab Five, their starting lineup consisting of Jacoby Gillespie, Rodney Rice, Selton Miguel, Derek Queen, and Julian Reese. This lineup has one of the best plus-minus numbers in the country, as all 5 guys are scoring over 12 points per game. Gillespie, Rice, and Miguel can all score from 3 and create off the dribble, while Reese and Queen handle the interior, where Queen has been particularly impressive, averaging a team-leading 16 points and 9 rebounds per game, and with Reese providing value as a rim protector and rebounder. With these offensive weapons and a top 10 defense nationally, the Terps are a real threat in the tournament. Grand Canyon is in the tournament for the 3rd straight year under Bryce Drew, and they center their game around forcing turnovers and getting to the free throw line. The Antelopes have a pretty big team as their 2 leading scorers, Jacoby Coles and Tyon Grant Foster, are 6'8" and 6'7" respectively. Ray Harrison is a solid mid-range scorer who averages 11 points a game, and Locke Wurr and Duke Brennan give Grand Canyon even more size to help with rebounding and rim protection. After going 0-18 in SEC play last year, Dennis Gates and the Missouri Tigers are back in the NCAA tournament for the 2nd time in 3 years. And they play a chaotic brand of basketball that involves running in transition at every opportunity and pressing to force turnovers. Mizzou has a top 5 offense thanks in large part to its collective ability to get to the free throw line, as they rank 2nd in the country in free throw rate. Caleb Grill and Tamar Bates can each score at all 3 levels and each score around 13 points per game, and assuming he's healthy, Mark Mitchell gives them a unique slashing forward that also pours in 14 a game. Drake is one of the best mid-majors in the country, as the Bulldogs haven't missed a beat with new head coach Ben McCollum, going an astonishing 30-3 on the back of a core McCollum brought with him from Division II Northwest Missouri State. Leading that group is Bennett Sturtz, a 6'4" guard who reminds me of a college-level Luka Doncic offensively, as he just totally controls the pace of the game while averaging around 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game. Drake plays at the slowest tempo in the country, and they are elite at offensive rebounding and forcing turnovers, making the opponent's margin for error very slim. We don't know exactly what's going on health-wise with Chance McMillan and Darion Williams, who are 2 of Texas Tech's best players, but the Red Raiders are still competitive without them, thanks primarily to Big 12 Player of the Year JT Toppin, who is a rebounding and post-scoring machine averaging 18 points and 9 rebounds a game. Texas Tech is one of the best offensive teams in the country as they limit turnovers, hit threes at a high rate, and grab a bunch of offensive rebounds. Watch out for freshman guard Christian Anderson, who can take over games at key moments, and point guard Elijah Hawkins, who knows where everyone is on the floor to create scoring chances. UNC Wilmington enters the tournament as winners of the CAA, with guard Donovan Newby leading the way, averaging 14.5 points and 3.5 assists per game. The Seahawks also have a pair of solid rim protectors in bigs Kamari McGriff and Harlan Ovioha, and look for them to attack the glass offensively and beat teams with their depth, as 7 out of their 8 rotation guys average over 7 points per game. Kansas entered the season as the #1 team in the country, and from that perspective, it's been a disappointing season in Lawrence. Still, the Jayhawks have a top 10 defense in the country, and boast a solid veteran core of big man Hunter Dickinson, who can be an unstoppable force on the block, and point guard DeJuan Harris, who's an elite on-ball defender and floor general. Zeke Mayo has been a nice addition in the portal as he's scoring around 14.5 points per game, but overall, Kansas struggles to generate consistent offense as they lack shooting and guys who can attack the basket. Arkansas gets into the dance in John Calipari's first year in Fayetteville, And they've also received some good news that freshman point guard Boogie Fland, who has been out since mid-January, will be back for the tournament. He averages around 15 points and 6 assists per game, but it's actually been 6'6" wing Adu Thero who's been the catalyst, as he leads the team in scoring and rebounding while also playing incredibly hard. Jonell Davis and DJ Wagner can be solid but streaky scoring options as they both average over 11 points per game, and look for the big man trio of Zvonimir Ivisic, Trayvon Brazile, and Jonas Adu to cause some issues as well. St. John's has become a monster in Rick Pitino's second year at the helm, as the Red Storm won both the Big East regular season and tournament thanks to an elite havoc-inducing defense that forces turnovers and annihilates any rim attempts. Big East Player of the Year RJ Lewis is a phenomenal shot maker who averages 18 points and 7 rebounds a game, and big man Zuby Ejiofor is a two-way energy big who scores 15 points and grabs 8 boards a game as well. Kadari Richmond and Davon Smith are also tough shot makers who impact the game in a variety of ways. So while this team does struggle shooting the three, they have enough scoring talent to withstand any droughts from long distance. It's been a rough year for trash cans, as Omaha is taking a very solid 22-win squad to the tournament after winning both the Summit League regular season and tournament. Omaha boasts a pair of snipers in the backcourt in JJ White and Tony Osborne, who each shoot over 40% from three and average over 12 points per game, and Summit League Player of the Year Markel Sutton is an absolute monster both as a scorer and as a rebounder, evidenced by his 22-point, 18-rebound performance in the Summit League title game. And with that is every team in the 2025 NCAA tournament explained. Be on the lookout for my official bracket prediction video that will drop later this week, and as always, thanks so much for watching and give me your thoughts below.